So let's say you have a couple of minor charges on your record. Maybe you were in your 20s, you made a couple of silly mistakes, and you stole a couple of items from a clothing store that you really liked. You got charged with a theft charge or a shoplifting charge. Maybe you went to a bar and it was Taco Tuesday and you had a lot of fun, and maybe you had too many tacos and too much tequila and you ended up getting into a bar fight, and now you're stuck with the simple assault charge. Ultimately, if you have minor charges, usually misdemeanors and below, and this is your first or maybe even your second offense, in most states and in most jurisdictions, those charges, you're going to be able to get them dismissed in some way, shape, or form. Usually there are first-time offender programs where you may have to do community service, or you may have to do classes to get the charges dismissed. But ultimately, in most states, if the charges are minor and the allegations behind them are minor, you may be able to get that dismissed. Now, ultimately, if you're a professional or, you have a really good career and you don't want the charges to, affect you for the rest of your life or the rest of your career, you may want to get rid of those charges from your record, right? And so what does that mean? That means that you may need to get the charge sealed or expunged. Now, a lot of people don't really know the difference between the two. So what I am going to do today is explain what a record sealing is and what a criminal record expungement is, and then also the difference between the two. So stay tuned. So I am criminal defense attorney Hannah Akintoye, and when it comes to getting charges off of your record, it is so important to get that done as soon as the case is dismissed. Now, in some places and in some jurisdictions, you may have to wait a period of time before you can get charges removed from your record, but it is a really, really good idea. The biggest issue that has occurred during the pandemic is the job crisis. And with the job crisis came people having difficulties getting jobs because of their record. So we were in a situation where employers had limited resources to be able to hire. And if they're going to hire, they're going to be very, very picky about who they hire. So when you're looking at job qualifications and you have the same exact credentials as the next person, you went to great schools, you got good grades, and you have a great experience on your resume. Most of the time, if it's you and another person, and the only difference is that you have a record, whether the charge was dismissed or not, it's still an arrest record, right? And if they're able to pull that up and then they're able to see it, we're talking about potential employers here, they're going to choose the person without a criminal record as opposed to the person with a criminal record, no matter how minor it is. So when you are deciding to get your record sealed or expunged, which I highly recommend, you want to know the difference between the two. So on one hand, we have criminal record expungements. This may or may not apply in the state that you are located in or in the state that the offense occurred in. But a criminal record expungement is essentially a deletion of the record. So if you're in a state or jurisdiction where the offense occurred and you are trying to get your record expunged, typically once you're actually able to successfully do that, the police officers may be required in order by the court to delete police reports, your mugshot, your fingerprint, and any other documentation that is associated with your arrest and the record of your arrest. When we're talking about expungements, we are talking about deletion of records. Similarly, with courts, they may be required to delete the case number, the court filings that are associated with your case, and so many other records that the courts typically hold on to. Bail records, that may be required to be deleted. Maybe while your case was pending, you could have had instructions to comply with a pretrial release agency. And these are the agencies that typically monitor your every move while your case is pending to make sure that you're not committing new crimes if you're charged with a crime already. And so typically they may have you drug test. They may have you, they're definitely looking at your record, and they're going to be looking at your background as well. So they may have run your record a couple of times. They may have created reports or bail sheets associated with your release. So all of these records are typically tied in with the courts. And when you get an expungement, it usually, in most states, requires the deletion, the complete deletion of those records, almost as though that they don't exist. So that is an expungement. That's typically what it requires. You're absolutely not going to be able to locate it if you were to try to locate that arrest record or that court record once a record is expunged. Now, the second type of way you can get a charge off of your record is through record sealing. And record sealing is a little bit different, right? It doesn't necessarily require a complete deletion of the record. It may typically require that the record be removed from public view. So typically in most states, you'll be able to look up a pending case. If you have a pending criminal case, most courthouses have some type of online search platform where you can look at a person who is charged and what their charges are, and maybe when their next court date is. When your charge is sealed, what the court will typically do is remove those public records so that if somebody is doing a public search of your record, they're not going to be able to find it. And in some instances, depending on what kind of way that the record is searched for, if it's a private organization or a private agency, they're not going to be able to locate a record that is sealed. Now, when a record is sealed, there are still ways to hold on to the record. So what may happen is that the police departments that have your arrest record, your mugshots, your fingerprints, they may be required to hold those records in maybe like under lock and key, as opposed to the way that they typically had it stored. And so sometimes with record sealing, what can happen is there can be exceptions for different types of agencies, like police officers or the FBI or prosecuting agencies. And they may be allowed to hold on to the record to determine various other things, to determine if you're suitable to carry a firearm, or to determine if you've committed a new offense within a certain period of time. And so with record sealing, typically you're not going to be able to find the record if you're just a regular private agency or private person. But if you're a person who is in law enforcement, there is some type of likelihood that you may be able to still access those records. It may not be completely deleted from police databases as opposed to public databases. So those are some of the major differences between record sealing and expungements. The good news is that usually when your record is sealed, and there are usually some types of exceptions to this, but usually when your record is sealed, you will be able to go and apply for jobs. And if they ask you, have you ever been arrested for a charge, you can actually say no. A lot of courts allow that in the final order that you get once your record is sealed, that if you're applying for jobs or if somebody asks you, have you ever been arrested for this particular charge, you can say no. Now, again, like I mentioned, there are usually exceptions for that. So, I know that if you are making statements to certain law enforcement agencies or, the FBI, you may not be able to say no. You may have to disclose that, yes, you were arrested, but the record has now been sealed. So there are usually some additional exceptions for what you can and cannot say when it comes to record sealing. So depending on whatever is available in your state or in your jurisdiction, if your state has both record sealing and expungements available, you want to try to first see if you qualify for an expungement. If not, record sealing is still an amazing option that is available to you. There are so many benefits to it, you'll be surprised. And I found that people are better employable when it comes to their charge being either expunged or sealed. You become a better candidate when it comes to different opportunities. So why miss out on an opportunity that is available to you simply because you made a mistake when you were young or when you were in your youth? It's not fair. If that is not who you are today, and that's not what is reflected by how you behave and how you carry yourself today, then it shouldn't hold you back. Get that record sealed, get that record expunged, and carry on with your life and your career. It's definitely worth it. So if you have any questions for me about the difference between record sealings and record expungements, always feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me here directly by commenting below or on my website, mydclaw.com. I'm always happy to chat with people further. So stay safe and take care, and I'll see you all soon.